it's always fascinating to see how things have changed. And you can see it in the photography, you see it in the design of the building, you see it in the stories that persist. This is a place that has history, and it's history that it's not just about our company's history, but the history of Spokane, and it's all reflected here.
To me, it's always impressive when something has withstood the time, and then when people with the foresight come in and improve and redevelop those kind of facilities. I think that's a great thing for Spokane.
What has always been true is a Vista is about creating place, because place matters, right? At the end of the day, the lights come on, gas flows, but really, what does it do? It lights up lives. It makes life easier. And this was a big part of making life easier from the 1916 time that it was built until 1986.
For 70 years, the steam plant labored to keep downtown Spokane with central heat. Fuels changed through the decades, from coal and electricity through the 1930s to sawdust, crude oil, and finally natural gas.
Everybody needed heat, and the most efficient way back in those days was to have a central operating plant that distributed heat to everybody.
There was 311 customers, and a lot of them were big hotels, Ridpath, Davenport, Deaconess, and the courthouse. They used a lot of steam. Biggest thing was our water supply. You get up to 420,000 pounds of steam an hour, and that's a lot of water, because you never want to run out of water in one of these things.
You look around now, and it's beautiful. And it's clean, and it's quiet. But during the days when the plant was operating, it was hot, and it was noisy, and it felt like the building kind of had a life of its own.
By the late 70s and early 80s, deterioration in underground infrastructure meant continual and costly repairs.
And this is the alley where the steam tunnel runs. Back in those days, there was steam lines that ran through the tunnel, along with underground electric.
What that actually means is you're going to be digging up streets, you're going to be digging up sidewalks and trying to put in all new piping. And at some point you look at the math on that and you realize, if you're Washington Water Power, that it no longer makes sense to do that, especially when people are changing the technology that they want.
You could purchase your own boilers for a lot less expensively. At that time, natural gas was plentiful, very inexpensive. And businesses could heat their buildings far more efficiently on their own.
If you don't have enough customers, you can't base a big infrastructure like this and make it make sense anymore. And so that was the responsible thing to do, was to close the steam plant.
The last day, when I shut down the last turbine, they blew that whistle. And that was it. The place was silent. That's what bugged me, because after being in here all those years with all that noise, steam noise and roaring of the turbines and all that, it really felt funny.
The steam plant sat dormant for a decade, quiet and awaiting the vision for the next chapter of its legacy.
Those were really darker years in Spokane. A lot of things were deteriorating.
In the early 90s, as part of our ongoing environmental stewardship, we discovered a leak from fuel from way after the plant had been shut down. So our question really was, how do we deal with this in a way that's appropriate from a stewardship point of view, not just for cleaning up the problem, but also rethinking what role we play in helping this physical icon be a meaningful part of the community going forward in time for another 100 years.
What if you tore it down? What would that mean? But there was never any question that the company would do that, because they knew how much the community loved those stacks.
In 1996, Washington Water Power, or Avista as we know it today, formed a strategic partnership with design-build firm Wells & Company, known for their historic rehabilitation. Together, these team members devoted exceptional vision and skill to bring new life to the steam plant.
There isn't a book that prepares you for a project like this. There isn't any kind of instruction anyplace that tells you how to do this because there's never been a project done like this in the world. Keep in mind that this building had never had a heating system. Lord knows it had never had a cooling system. It did not have proper stairways. The workmen in this building used catwalks. Not good for the public.
We're in the center part of the steam plant, and this is a brand new elevator that was put in for access and also for beauty, so you can see the space as you come up.
The way the elevator looks with all the pipes and the cables and everything, just an honest expression of what it is. The rivets, the connectors, all that I wanted unpainted because I like the way the natural metal looks. This is an example of historic preservation in action.
One of my favorites, and I know many people's favorites, is the water fountain over here.
So this is just how they carved out the asbestos that was, in essence, stuck to the metal. They just cut it out. And you'll see that other places.
Nothing quite like experiencing the steam plant catwalks. Doing the steam plant renovation, and a key objective has always been to do an historic certification, and that means doing the work properly. And it wasn't hard to do, as long as you thought to play the hand you're dealt, not to make it into something it was never intended to be as far as the use of materials or the quality of spaces. Now we're inside of the small boiler that's in the middle of the steam plant, and this really gives you the best idea of what a boiler looked like. We've kept everything intact here from when we got the plant and started working on it. And these are the original bricks that were in here. We actually went back and laid them in to give it the feel and keep as much of the plant as possible. And that just driving dynamic really kept us going.
It was daunting, but it was also so exciting. All this steel that makes spaces in here had to be added. And as that happened, I started to visualize color. I wanted to use the local quarry tile. The entry is a pattern actually from the old Salt Lake City County Courthouse. And I love that pattern. Of course, I changed the colors.
The craftsmanship from 1916 and the craftsmanship from 1997, 98, 99, 2000 was all about how do you honor that history. And I find that Washington Water Power and Avista do that on a regular basis. It's about how do you honor something by doing the right thing with it. The steam plant was the first project in Spokane to win the National Historic Trust Preservation Award. In 2001, Ron, Julie, and I got to go to Providence, Rhode Island, and accept this amazing award for both of our companies. And it was very, very special.
Well, this is the crowning glory of anyone's career who worked in this building. I think whether you were a painter or a steel worker or what, it was just wonderful.
You integrate old and new, and all of a sudden this building becomes a landmark, but more than that, it was a catalyst. We showed the potential of this off-center location. Since our project, there have been over a dozen major rehabilitation of this area. They created an historic district, an arts and entertainment district. It was not necessarily the cause of it, but it showed the potential, and others caught the vision. And so the steam plant ripples throughout Spokane, even today.
It's a historical building. It's a walking museum. And all of our tenants here in the building, they love the atmosphere and telling people that we're in this extraordinary place.
What we did was create as many usable, rentable spaces as we could. And today, thanks to Spencer's initiative and vision and hard drive, we're at what, 98% occupancy? That's a record all-time high.
It's not just that the building is an icon on the skyline, it is distinct in every aspect of your experience here, whether it's the way the building appears or what experience you have once you come in and the things that you see around you. The thing I always show people when I bring them down here, inside the stacks, and when you get inside this massive structure and you're able to look up and see the sky, there's just nothing like it. Everything is unique. There's nothing like it literally on the planet. So everything that we try to do here today and on into the future is to preserve that distinctiveness of what the steam plant represents.
When someone who comes here for the first time, the first reaction that they always have is that they're wowed by the facility. Because where else do you get to sit inside a boiler and have a meal, or sit in a bar and look 80 foot up to the ceilings, or walk along catwalks? So that's a pretty neat experience. But then you couple that with the fact that we make our own beers. We source as much local stuff as we possibly can, both for the grain and for the hops. We also source as much stuff on the food menu locally as we possibly can. And so when you put all that together, it creates a really nice local experience for people to have, whether you're from the area or not.
It should reflect the best of what our region represents. That's part of what makes it iconic, right? It's not just a vision of a building on a skyline. It's what happens inside that iconic structure that matters.